Um, Hello, my name is Kaijan. I am going to speak to you about the racial dynamic currently in America and everything that we're seeing with the civil unrest. I've been quiet about it because I know that my opinion matters to very few. However, I've received several messages asking me to give my opinion, and I have kept my opinion to myself because I do have a bachelor's degree in social justice and a master's degree in criminal justice. I only mention that not to put myself on a pedestal, but to simply explain why I refrain from sharing my opinions with people. When you have an education and you are well informed on certain topics, it's difficult to have dialogue with other people because they're speaking from an emotional standpoint most of the time. And when you are an academic or you have a foot in academia or you're educated past high school, past bachelor's level, you're speaking more from facts or research. So that being said, I feel obligated now due to the 7 or 8 messages I received to give my opinion. Um, 2016, I did a symposium for Northeastern Illinois University. My symposium was based on why does the Black Lives Matter movement matter, and I outlined one key aspect that has become apparent and has become reality. One of the aspects the aspect that I highlighted that I want to talk about is the inability for America to admit it has a problem with policing will not just affect the black community, but will be much more detrimental to the white community in the long run. So one of my arguments for why the Black Lives Matter movement matters is because black people are only 12% of the country. And by not helping us, you are working against yourself because the policies you use on us will inevitably affect your neighborhoods, affect the economics of your country. And this is only if you're thinking in black and white dynamics. But this was my point. By not giving in and relinquishing the power you want to possess over the black community, you are not enabling yourself or you are not enabling society to progress as it needs to. And that lack of progression will cause friction, which is what we're seeing now, currently friction. So that was my point. And now we're seeing it because of recent events. So the young man who decided to drive from Antioch and drive up to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and shoot protesters, despite the particulars, I want to make it very clear what happened there. A white man or a white minor, 17 years old, drove across uh, the across 2 states to go to a protest to defend property that was not his and to shoot those who were in his way or who would, you know, come in contact with him. He killed 2 other white men. Um, as it stands now, he killed 2 other white men. Now, I want to make this clear. Why did those 2 white men die? Those 2 white men died specifically because America will not admit and directly address its problem with policing. Those 2 white men sacrificed their lives because Black Lives Matter. Right? Right? So the fact that America won't do what it needs to do to progress is why there's now civil unrest. There's civil unrest to the level that a young white man who wants to be a cop will do anything and everything he can to feel that power. And wanting to feel that power, he will illegally obtain a firearm and shoot other white men that are on his team, racially speaking. Racially on his team, racially speaking. He will shoot them merely to keep the power dynamic in place, merely to keep the idea that police can shoot unarmed black men in place, because that's what the riots in Kenosha are about. He knew the basis of the narrative and still drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. Now, this is a complex thought, but America has always had this exact same pattern when it comes to progression. Intellectually speaking, Black Lives Matter in 50 years will be the movement that matters. In 50 years, Black Lives Matter will be the sole recipient of the respect and acknowledgement for ending the war on drugs, ending mass incarceration, and forcing America's policing to be more progressive and more intellectually sound. That will happen no matter what we do. Black Lives Matter will be painted the way that we paint Harriet Tubman, the way that we paint Nat Turner. That's how history will look at the Black Lives Matter movement. That being said, anybody who disagrees right now is on the wrong side of history. The reality of being on the wrong side of history is that one white man, 17, I don't know, his name is Jacob, I'm pretty sure. I can't pronounce his last name. One white man trying to hold on to the wrong side of history will kill intellectually sound white men from the other side. Now I'm going to wrap this up right here. If only we all could come together and accept the necessity of progression in America, which would be acknowledging the racism, which would be some type of reparations, which would be an admittance that we need to overhaul our policing because it's been incredibly racialized for the past 100 years. If we could just do that, then we'd all be in less danger, white, black, red, or indifferent. But since we can't, because some of us refuse to relinquish the psychological power we have, the economic power we have, and we refuse to admit that we're on the moral low ground, we have whites killing whites because Black Lives Matter. So, it's just something to digest. So my opinion going forward, my solution going forward is to not think about now, but to think about the future. If when you think about the future, you actually think the fundamental moral aspects of the Black Lives Matter movement will not last, you are wrong. The moral high ground is with the downtrodden, it's with the lowest aspects of society. That will be the moral high ground. Those who want to keep them in that position are not on the moral high ground. And when you don't have the moral high ground, you will not last. It will not work. Anything that is not morally sound has to be kept down by force. And whatever you keep down by force, you have to keep that force going. And force, unfortunately, works in the short term, but not in the long term, right? You can't allow civil unrest to happen forever. It will not work. Your country will crumble. That's it. People will leave. Resources will be depleted. So we as a country need to accept that we need to progress. And all of those who are saying Black Lives Matter who are not black, thank you. You are on the right side of history. Those who are resistant in any form, I want you to know that psychologically speaking and morally speaking, you are on the wrong side of history and it will not last. You might as well give up now. And if you don't want to give up now and you want to argue about policing in America has little issues or little to no issues, I want you to know one thing and one thing only. The longer you resist, the more young white men who are going to shoot each other because one is on the right side of history and the other is on the wrong side of history. And that's my perspective on the whole thing. So I hope that we can progress, hope we can get past this. I hope that we can all look to the future, and I hope that we all want a future for our country. Thank you.